Buying a gun in Maryland is easier than ever after a judge strikes down an old law.
Definitely going to promote gun sales.
The changes you can expect to see at the gun store. Parents, attorneys, and law enforcement say current juvenile justice laws aren't working and are pleading for change.
We can't turn a blind eye to the public safety component of this problem.
But other lawmakers say they should stay in place. Why they want to give it more time. City Schools says Baltimore has not paid back nearly $500,000 for overtime work at COVID sites.
Have you talked to the school system about this?
Fox 45 News Project Baltimore looks at the conflicting statements from both sides. A hate crime prevention committee member is on the hot seat. Why some say her punishment for anti-Semitic social media posts is not enough, and how that member is defending her actions.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
We begin with breaking developments in two stories we have been following all night on Fox 45 News. New York State officials say there was no indication of a terror attack in a deadly car crash and explosion at the U.S.-Canada border. 2 people in the car died as surveillance video captured the moment it ran into a barrier and caught fire.
Also breaking, Israel says a potential hostage deal with Hamas won't begin until Friday, and a temporary pause in the fighting has been delayed. We'll have more on both these stories over the next hour. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. We are exactly 7 weeks out from next year's legislative session, and lawmakers remain split on how to address juvenile violence statewide.
Those kids need more than what the child in need of assistance or child in need of supervision system can provide them. And so I think resources have been cut.
Laws that we put in place are going to take a couple of years to fully see the fruit of the foundations that we've laid and the seeds that we've planted.
Well, this divide coming as Fox 45 News continues to hear from parents, police, and prosecutors frustrated with the lack of accountability for young people.
A Montgomery County lawmaker is calling for patience as others say the state can't wait. Mackenzie Frost has the story.
A few Democratic lawmakers are asking the public for patience with the current juvenile justice laws before any major changes are made. But some top prosecutors in Maryland are saying there's no time to waste.
From near the nation's capital to Baltimore, even in quiet suburban neighborhoods.
I've never thought of being robbed in my driveway.
Young people are committing crimes, and those crimes are getting the attention of some leaders around the state.
We have to address the public safety. We can't turn a blind eye to the public safety component of this problem.
The 2 laws at the center of the debate, one preventing kids 13 and younger from facing nonviolent misdemeanor charges, another requiring an attorney to be present during questioning of a juvenile by law enforcement. Several states' attorneys calling for change, especially when we're seeing car theft numbers around the state being driven up by young offenders.
Those would not be considered a crime of violence. So anyone from 10 to 12 who gets involved in something like that doesn't come to us. We can't charge them.
Really what we're seeing is just delaying this delinquent behavior that turns into adult criminal behavior. And we need to get to these youth sooner.
In Montgomery County Tuesday night,
juvenile justice is about reform. It's not about punitive actions.
Senator Will Smith, chair of the powerful Senate Judicial Proceedings Committee, says change takes time.
Laws that we put in place are going to take a couple of years to fully see the fruit of the foundations that we've laid and the seeds that we've planted.
And making his stance on major changes clear.
I, for one, am not interested in rolling back the reforms that we put in place last year.
What those tweaks to the laws will be haven't been clearly discussed, at least not publicly, by Democrats who control both chambers of the legislature. Rich Gibson, state's attorney in Howard County and president of the Maryland State's Attorneys Association, previously telling Fox 45 News he's optimistic there will be adjustments to current policy.
Do you think that lawmakers will really take this seriously when session returns?
Yeah, I believe that lawmakers, again, we're all partners. I do believe they're acting in good faith.
In response to Senator Smith's latest comments, Gibson says Senator Smith has indicated he is willing to work with the prosecutors to draft tweaks to the existing law. For some leaders, though, comments like this from the leader of the Department of Juvenile Services.
Nationally and in Maryland, as juvenile incarceration has declined, so has juvenile crime.
Are creating more frustration than solutions.
My real concern is that there continues to be, at least to a small degree, some downplaying of the nature of the problem.
The statements of the Secretary about the falling numbers in terms of juvenile crime That's not what we've seen here in Montgomery County.
With conversations continuing surrounding how to tackle the juvenile crime crisis in Maryland, Democratic leadership indicating major changes to current laws aren't likely.
Senator Smith tells me that there needs to be more training so that everyone understands what's allowed under these current juvenile justice laws. Meanwhile, Governor Westmore says he will unveil his own juvenile crime plan, but so far, the public hasn't seen it. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott has been a vocal critic of the Department of Juvenile Services for months, saying it is a broken system that needs to be rebuilt.
We have to build a juvenile justice system that works from the ground up. Every single portion of it has to be looked at. I've been talking about that for years now, as you know.
The mayor's comments coming as DJS faces questions surrounding multiple violent incidents in Baltimore. 2 of the suspects in the Brooklyn Day mass shooting were wearing ankle monitors and under DJS supervision at the time of the shooting. DJS says they have 14 staff members monitoring more than 100 young people on ankle monitors. And earlier this month in Butchers Hill, a 12 and 14-year-old were caught on camera allegedly beating a woman and trying to steal her car. They were released after only 2 hours, prompting a letter from Councilman Zeke Cohen and other lawmakers to Baltimore police and DJS.
It is not acceptable for the victim. It is not acceptable for the general public. And it's also not acceptable for those young people. They need to be held accountable. Our ask for Secretary Schiraldi and Commissioner Worley is work together in collaboration, no finger pointing. The police department, the Department of Juvenile Services need to be on the same page.
And that brings us to our question of the day. If lawmakers don't address juvenile crime, will you support them next November? So far, 100% of people who voted say no. To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com/vote.
State Republicans pushed to change 2 juvenile crime laws but weren't successful. Lawmakers didn't pass the Violent Firearms Offender Act, which Republicans plan to reintroduce next session. The state legislature passed Senate Bill 1, which limits where legal gun owners can bring their weapons. Critics argued the state was regulating legal gun owners instead of people illegally possessing guns. Well, now some state lawmakers are commending a ruling from the Maryland Court of Appeals calling the state's handgun license law unconstitutional.
It was ridiculous when they passed it. It did absolutely nothing to deal with crime in our state. And the only thing it accomplished was it created this massive hurdle for otherwise law-abiding citizens to own a firearm.
Senate President Bill Ferguson and Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott are among Democrats who opposed that decision. They argue it will lead to more gun violence and firearm-related deaths. Tonight, Fox 45's Jeff Abel is looking into what the court's decision means for gun shop owners and customers in Maryland. He joins us live with his findings. Jeff?
Well, that federal court ruling had many gun stores buzzing with sales today, and it had the Attorney General trying to decide which move to make next. At Pasadena Pawn and Gun today,
I really didn't expect it. I was shocked when I seen it.
the High Court's ruling pumped new interest in guns.
Asked if we have a good selection.
Yesterday, a federal appeals court ruled that Maryland's 10-year-old law requiring handgun qualification licenses for gun owners is unconstitutional. In order to obtain a license, the law required handgun owners to undergo background checks, attend a gun safety course, and wait up to 30 days for state approval to purchase a handgun.
It deterred a lot of people, especially seniors. It was an extra $150. It just deterred them. You know I can't tell it. There's 100 people in here.
In fact, this was the scene at Pasadena Gun and Pawn 10 years ago, on the very night before the new law took effect.
It's backed up out the door. I mean, there's just a lot of people here.
In 2013, thousands of gun owners raced to purchase guns before the new, more costly requirements took effect.
People were trying to get in before the deadline. That's what the rush is.
The licensing cost added as much as $200 toward the cost of owning a handgun. Now, owners are simply required to undergo a background check and wait 7 days to purchase a handgun. In a statement, Senate President Bill Ferguson wrote, "The decision will unequivocally lead to more gun violence and firearm-related deaths." Gun advocates, however, believe it will save lives.
If you're at a store or something and somebody's shooting people and somebody else has a handgun there, I mean, at least you have a chance. Yeah, but if you don't have nothing, you don't have no chance.
At Pasadena Gun and Pawn, owners are now predicting a surge in business.
Something to be thankful for at Thanksgiving.
Well, right now, state police are urging gun stores to stay the course, saying nothing will happen until the High Court issues a mandate. That mandate is expected to come sometime next month. We're live. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Jeff, thank you. Fox 45 News has done extensive reporting on Maryland's gun laws and how they impact you. Head to foxbaltimore.com for our complete coverage. Fire officials say no one was hurt after a large fire engulfed 2 homes in southwest Baltimore just before 5 o'clock tonight. Happened along Franklin Avenue near Clifton Park. Investigators say the homes were vacant and they're still looking into how the fire started.
Well, some drivers are still on the road this evening heading to see family and friends.
And with many people now at their destination, attention turns to our Thanksgiving weekend forecast. Here's meteorologist Jasmine Lomax. Jasmine.
We are getting ready for a nice and quiet night. We're still seeing some areas with some showers, and we had a few of those showers along parts of the eastern shore and into Delaware. But the rain is starting to taper, not just here, but really around the region. It's looking much better for anyone traveling tonight or even tomorrow. Here's a closer look around the state, and notice we had those few areas of green, especially over the Chesapeake, but that rain has tapered, and now we're back to nice and dry weather. We're going to stay that way overnight. Our temperatures will drop to the upper 30s and the low 40s for a mild start to your Thanksgiving. And we're also looking at clearing clouds, setting up for plenty of sunshine. I'll have a closer look at what you can expect for Thanksgiving and Black Friday in my Weather Authority forecast. Back to you.
Jasmine, thanks. You can always have the forecast right at your fingertips. Download the Fox 45 app. Just search WBFF in the App Store and wake up tomorrow morning with meteorologist Wyatt Everhart for your complete Thanksgiving Day forecast starting at 4:30.
Well, coming up on Fox 45 News at 10 o'clock tonight, the member suspended from the State Hate Crime Prevention Commission is speaking out how she defends herself as some lawmakers call her social media posts hate speech. And more than 10,000 cars have been stolen in Baltimore this year, why many end up in the same part of the city. The Baltimore City school system is out nearly $500,000. Project Baltimore investigates where that money went and the different explanations coming from North Avenue and the mayor.
Baltimore City Schools is out nearly $500,000, money that was paid to school police officers for overtime during the pandemic but was never reimbursed.
For months, Project Baltimore's Chris Papps has been trying to find out why the city hasn't paid North Avenue back. Well, now the mayor and the school system appear to have different versions of what happened.
Project Baltimore, for the last month, has been trying to solve a mystery, a $500,000 mystery that just got more complicated.
Have you talked to the school system about this? Because they're saying that they put in the reimbursement.
I'm going to say what I said to you one more time. If we receive it, we'll pay it.
The nearly $500,000 in question was paid to city schools police officers assigned to work overtime at COVID testing sites during the pandemic. Baltimore City Schools expected the city to reimburse that money using federal COVID relief funding. From July 2020 to July of 2021, City Schools says it submitted a total of $481,000 in police overtime for reimbursement. Years later, the district hasn't been paid back. Why not? Getting an answer has proven to be difficult. We started in October by going directly to city schools.
I just simply want to know why $500,000 in police overtime has not been reimbursed to the school system. You know the answer. I don't know why you're not telling me.
How do you know I know the answer?
You as in the school system know the answer.
But North Avenue wouldn't tell us the answer. They say because of the investigation into school police officer and football coach Lawrence Smith.
You think you should say something though to your players?
Smith was arrested in September and charged with 15 felony counts. He's accused of fraudulently obtaining more than $215,000 in overtime that he did not actually work, and many of his overtime hours were logged at COVID testing sites. When the school system refused to answer our questions about why the nearly $500,000 was not reimbursed, we went to Mayor Brandon Scott.
Mayor, can we just get a second with you?
According to city schools, the overtime was submitted to the city's finance department, and Mayor Scott told us in October he would look into it.
We'll make sure you get to that information so you get to the truth and you don't have to guess.
Last week, the mayor gave us an answer that we were not expecting.
We can only reimburse what we receive. We have not received that, and when we do, we'll pay it.
You have not received reimbursement?
It has not been received by the finance department. If we receive it, we will pay it like we do every bill.
North Avenue told us in response to a public records request that it submitted for reimbursement years ago. The mayor says that never happened. So Project Baltimore then went back to city schools to find out. The district told us in a statement this week, in light of the federal investigation, City Schools has been reviewing the invoices from the period for which Project Baltimore requested documentation. We will work with the city to update our reimbursement request if necessary once that process is complete. City Schools appears to be standing by its claim that it submitted a reimbursement request. The city's finance department says it has no record of that request. Two government entities, two conflicting accounts. And remember what's at stake. Nearly $500,000 taxpayer dollars already paid to school police officers, one of which has been indicted by the FBI.
Project Baltimore will stay on this story to try to get answers. But we want to hear from you. Do you have information about this situation? Call our hotline, send me an email, go to foxbaltimore.com to follow our progress. I'm Chris Papst, and this is Project Baltimore.
Baltimore City teacher Wendy Bozell is entering Baltimore's mayoral race, laying out her priorities today in front of City Hall.
We have great people in Baltimore. I love this city, and I really want to bring us all together so that we can solve the problems of crime. We have vacant homes, we have food insecurity, and the biggest thing is youth violence, and we need to really get that under control.
Bozell is also the president of the Upper Fells Point Improvement Association. She's running as a member of the Maryland Forward Party, which identifies as a new party committed to finding common ground and solving big challenges across the state.
Bozell is one of several candidates running for mayor. Early polling indicates the race will likely come down to Mayor Brandon Scott and former Mayor Sheila Dixon. The latest Goucher poll shows that 39% of voters would support Dixon in a hypothetical primary. 27% would back Mayor Scott. 23% would prefer some other candidate, and 8% are undecided.
Coming up, Israel's hostage deal with Hamas on hold, why Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is delaying the release.
2 people are dead following a crash at the U.S.-Canada border near Niagara Falls. Coming up, an update on the FBI investigation.
After a cloudy day with a few showers, tomorrow will bring sunshine. Perfect for Thanksgiving. We're talking temperatures in the mid-50s tomorrow and on Black Friday. That's all before a cooler Saturday. I'll have a closer look at what to expect for the holidays and into the weekend in my full forecast.
And a look at the Inner Harbor tonight on Thanksgiving Eve. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
We're learning more about a deadly car crash at the U.S.-Canada border that happened this afternoon.
That's right. Investigators confirm it was accidental, but it is still unclear what caused the crash. You can see the car lose control right before crashing into a barrier at the border crossing from New York to Canada. Police say the driver cleared the first checkpoint before swerving and crashing in a second checkpoint area. The 2 people in the car were killed, and a customs officer was hurt. He has minor injuries. New York Governor Kathy Hochul addressing the situation tonight.
There's no evidence at this time that this was a terrorist activity, and that's what I want to make very clear to the public.
The governor saying the FBI found no evidence of a terrorist attack despite earlier speculation. The FBI continues to investigate. We'll bring you any updates as we learn more.
The federal appeals court has ruled private citizens can no longer challenge possible voting discrimination in court, known as Section 2 lawsuits. The vast majority of Section 2 cases in the past have been filed by private citizens. Now a federal judge says only the U.S. Department of Justice can bring those lawsuits. This revolves around the U.S. Civil Rights decision of 1965. The decision could ultimately end up in front of the Supreme Court.
The Maryland Supreme Court has declined for now to take up the Maryland Hemp Coalition's lawsuit against the state over hemp regulations. The group argues the pot licensing plan created a monopoly and snuffed out hemp retailers. Back in October, after hearing testimony, a judge granted a temporary stop to the enforcement of the current cannabis laws in Maryland, allowing hemp retailers to open their doors and start selling their products again.
You would think that at some point when you steal 5, 6 cars, okay, we got to bump, we got to do something a little bit better.
Car theft victims not waiting for police to help them find their vehicles. Coming up at 10:30, how several stolen cars seem to be ending up in the same place.
And a member of Maryland's Commission on Hate Crimes is facing backlash over what some are calling hate speech on social media. Why she says her posts are protected. We're following new developments in 3 big stories at 10:30. Stolen cars are being dumped in Southwest Baltimore. Tonight, residents ask what police are doing about it.
A member of Maryland's newly formed Commission on Hate Crimes on the hot seat for social media posts about the Israel-Hamas war. Her comments and why some groups are backing her up.
And dozens of Israeli hostages are set to be released later this week after an agreement with Hamas. But families may have to wait longer to see their loved ones.
Tonight, we have team coverage of the ongoing conflict. National correspondent Atra El-Nashar looks into the details surrounding this hostage deal and why it's being delayed.
But we begin here at home with Amy Simpson and a woman facing backlash over some comments she made on social media.
A group of 7 state delegates accusing this woman of spreading hate online, now calling on Attorney General Anthony Brown to have her removed from the state's Hate Crimes Commission entirely. Repercussions of the Israel-Hamas war continue to be felt in the Baltimore region.
Zainab, Z-A-I-N-A-B.
Now Zainab Chowdhury, the executive director of Maryland's chapter of CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, facing consequences for sentiments shared online.
Over the last several weeks, Ms. Chaudhry has posted some really shocking and hateful comments on her social media.
Among the posts raising concern, this from October 17th, which likens modern-day Israeli supporters to Hitler's Nazi party of the 1930s. That moment when you become what you hated most, she captioned the photo.
We are pleased that the AG has suspended her.
Following Chaudhry's suspension from the state's Hate Crimes Commission, 7 lawmakers writing a letter to the AG himself, insisting stronger action is needed.
The sole purpose of this commission that Ms. Chaudhry serves on is to stop hate crimes. And someone who is fomenting hate crimes and posting anti-Semitic material just doesn't belong on that commission.
Yeah, this is a manufactured controversy that's designed to distract from the very real atrocities and the horrific violence that's being inflicted upon Palestinians in Gaza as we speak.
In a lengthy statement, Chaudhry defending herself, saying she's the sole American Muslim on the AG's Hate Crimes Commission. That role is more important now than ever before, she said, succumbing to pressure from dangerous defamatory smear campaigns designed to fuel the fires of anti-Muslim bigotry and chill free speech and to silence those advocating for justice. Undermines the mission and work of the commission. Also saying none of the posts on her personal account violated any known commission standards. Chaudhry calling her posts protected free speech and saying they've been stripped from context. False smears from anti-Palestinian and anti-Muslim extremists will not stop me and others from standing up for justice here and abroad, she said.
The expense of the constitutional rights of
in an interview this afternoon, Chaudhry called her suspension from the Hate Crimes Commission inappropriate.
I think that he is succumbing to pressure from pro-Israel voices who are attempting to silence anyone from speaking up.
They have been rocked.
Just last week, Chaudhry spoke with FOX45 News as she called for a Johns Hopkins doctor to be fired over violent anti-Palestinian posts online.
The damage that's been done is irreparable, and I think that at this point, it's too little too late. A leave is not enough. We are calling for him to be terminated. We are calling for his medical license to be revoked.
Now similar calls being levied over her own social media comments about the war in the Middle East.
We defend her right to say whatever outrageous and harmful things that she wants to say. But as a member of this hate crime commission, she needs to be held accountable for those comments.
And following today's calls for Chaudhry to be removed from the state's Hate Crimes Commission, today the Attorney General's office referring us back to its statement from yesterday, saying the AG has nothing further to add. In Baltimore, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Well, dozens of Muslim groups are now calling on Maryland Attorney General Anthony Brown to reverse his decision to suspend Chaudhry. In a statement, they said Chaudhry is the only American Muslim on the Hate Crimes Commission, a critical voice in representing their interests. The statement goes on to say Chaudhry has every right to call out Israel's government, and an attack on her is an attack on the entire Muslim community in Maryland. More than 4,000 people also signed a community petition in support of Chaudhry.
There have been several controversial statements in Maryland since the war began on October 7th. A Montgomery County teacher is under investigation for pushing conspiracy theories about Israel. Her posts claim Israel is killing Palestinians to sell their organs. According to the Daily Wire, Montgomery County Schools is investigating. Early this month, Jewish students and community leaders raised concerns after a message referencing the Holocaust was found on the University of Maryland campus after a pro-Palestinian rally. Now, organizers of that rally say none of its members wrote the message. Dozens of Maryland lawmakers are threatening to withdraw funding from CASA of Maryland after its longtime executive made pro-Palestinian comments on social media that lawmakers called hate speech. While some advocate groups have defended CASA's right to free speech, the group did apologize for those comments.
Israeli officials saying the hostage deal with Hamas has been delayed at least a day. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says negotiations are temporarily stalled. U.S. officials anticipate 3 Americans will be part of this deal. But as national correspondent Atra El-Nashar reports, there are still concerns about how the terms of that deal could help Hamas.
Israeli and American officials stating over and over when it comes to a hostage release agreement with Hamas, nothing is certain until everything is finalized and executed, like whether the deal hurts or helps Israel's larger goal to destroy Hamas. Even the spokesperson for the Israel Defense Forces acknowledges how Hamas may use the agreed-to 4-day pause in fighting.
One would hope that they would use it in order to care for civilians in the southern Gaza Strip. I fear that Hamas will use the pause in fighting in order to try to resupply and regroup.
For every additional 10 hostages Hamas frees, Israel agrees to pause fighting for another day. An extension the White House says it wants to see.
But of course, Hamas has proven to be anything but a humane group of people, and so we can't be sure exactly what they're going to do.
Before Israel's cabinet approved the deal Tuesday night, members of the conservative Religious Zionism Party argued that during any pauses, IDF forces would be vulnerable to Hamas attacks. Some party members ended up voting for the deal. From an intelligence gathering standpoint, this almost certainly sets Israel back. The White House confirming both Israel and the U.S. will stop drone surveillance over Gaza for 6 hours during each day fighting is paused. During that time, Israel agrees to release 150 Palestinian prisoners. The IDF says it will not include serious offenders. The government publishing 300 names of prisoners who could be released. All are either women and girls or boys who are 18 and under. Some, Israel says, are affiliated with Hamas.
Any list that the Israeli government was comfortable releasing in exchange for these hostages, the United States was going to be supportive of.
Israelis have been given a 24-hour period to review the list and file a legal objection against any of the prisoners. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar reporting.
New York City officials are on high alert for potential threats at tomorrow's Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade amid ongoing tensions in the Middle East. There will be an increased police presence throughout the parade route. Officials say there's no credible threat.
We're going to continue to coordinate with the New York State Intelligence Center to identify those threats. We know that after October 7th, there's been an increase in level of concerns, but we're on top of it.
Well, we will continue to follow the latest developments with the hostage situation in Israel and security here at home. Stay up to date with all of our coverage at foxbaltimore.com.
Car thefts in Baltimore have more than tripled compared to this time last year, and some residents are trying to recover their cars themselves. Fox 45's Vincent Hill looks into where many of these cars are showing up in Southwest Baltimore.
Just under the noisy traffic of Interstate 95 sits a no dumping sign. But for car thieves,
no surveillance.
This underpass near Merle Park, a dumping ground for stolen cars. These pictures posted to social media showing several stolen Hyundais and Kias, posted by desperate owners in search of their vehicles.
I used to live down one of these blocks where there is a dead end. And
this woman, who lives in the area, not wanting to show her face,
they used to run them into the Jersey walls,
but says she's seen several stolen cars dumped by the overpass.
Crime's illegal, except in Baltimore.
Marcus Strider of the Guardian Angels patrols the Merle Park area.
Think about this. We're almost 10,000 stolen cars. 10,000 stolen cars in Baltimore.
The latest BPD data shows 9,720 cars have been stolen as of November 11th. The most current data not released until next week.
You would think that at some point when you steal 5, 6 cars, okay, we got to bump, we got to do something a little bit better.
Fox 45 reached out to BPD about the cars posted to social media and asked the following: have the cars been confirmed stolen? Did officers recover the vehicles? And will BPD be patrolling the area given that cars are being dumped there? So far, we have not heard back.
This is insanity. This is madness. This is repetitive. It has escalated to a point where it's a national embarrassment.
Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
Well, this month, Mayor Scott released an action plan to address the spike in car thefts. The initiatives include multiple steering wheel lock distribution events, system upgrade clinics to improve security in Kias and Hyundais, distributing GPS trackers for city residents to put in their cars, and expanding the city's network of license plate readers. And while the mayor claims the new plan is part of a year-long effort to fight the spike in car theft, some city leaders are taking issue with what they see as a lack of action. Councilman Eric Costello last week week criticizing Mayor Scott for not taking more aggressive steps to protect city residents' vehicles.
There's a complete lack of urgency on issues plaguing our communities. Why wait until we reach nearly 10,000 car thefts, one of the highest rates in the United States, to act with a sense of urgency?
Now, that criticism came as the councilman endorsed Sheila Dixon for mayor.
Communities across the state are trying to get a grip on car thefts. Baltimore County has seen car thefts more than double this year. And today, police held a steering wheel lock giveaway in Towson. Kia and Hyundai owners lined up to get their locks. Those cars have been a target for thieves due to a flaw in the security system, which was exposed on social media. The companies also faced a lawsuit over the issue. This week, a federal court threw out their requests, saying the companies created a public nuisance by not installing industry standard safety equipment in their cars.
The White House celebrating an economy moving in the right direction. I'm Christine Frizzau in Washington with why some say not so fast.
And for anyone traveling around the region, maybe tonight or even tomorrow, it's looking much better. We still have a few spotty showers, but overnight the rain tapers. I'll let you know how it sets up for Thanksgiving coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.